Hello, and welcome to this episode of Allegory Gallery Interviews. Today we'll be speaking with Liz Chumtong of Saki Silver. Hi, Liz.
Hi, how are you doing?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm great, thanks.
We just wanted to mention really quickly that we are at Beadfest Philadelphia, so if you hear some background noise, it's because everything is brimming with activity this morning. You can also find Liz's work at www.sakisilver, that's SAKISILVER.com, and you can find them on Facebook under facebook.com/SakiSilverDesign. So, Liz, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Oh, where should I begin? I am the owner of Saki Silver. I found it many years ago with my husband, who has since moved on. So I'm running it with my sister-in-law.
Oh, great.
Now, yeah, so she's taken over the manufacturing in Thailand.
Okay.
And I do the sales and design and social media, which is a big part, as you know.
Mm-hmm.
Very time consuming. Yeah, and the shows and everything else.
Great. Well, we understand that you started with your then husband at that point, but what has kept you in it? What has made you feel inspired by your work or inspired by the designing of the work?
I love gemstones.
Okay.
I love jewelry.
We've seen more and more gemstones being added here recently.
Yes. Yeah. And I always have, I remember as a teenager going into my first bead store and just, just absolutely feeling like, oh my gosh, I just want to be in here all day. You know, it was so exciting. And then I remember my first trip to Thailand. I had gone with a friend of mine who was actually raised there. So I had no idea what I was in for. I had never been out of the country. I was 19 years old. I had never had a passport. I had to get a passport to go. And I ended up in the jewelry district, the wholesale jewelry district, and going into these shops that were floor to ceiling silver jewelry.
Wow, yeah, wow.
I mean, and Thailand is so just amazing anyway. The smells, the sounds, it's just really intense. The heat, the sun. I was wowed,
Yeah, of course.
I was like, I want to be a part of this. Like, what can I do? And I remember asking someone in San Francisco, he had an import shop but he imported from Bali, and he was one of the first people I knew who, imported from Asia. And I said, how do I do it? What do I do? And he's like, you just have to do it. He wasn't going to give me any information. Trial and error, So I did.
Okay.
And at this stage in my life, I've been doing it now 25 years.
Right.
It's like I can't imagine doing anything else, So, yeah.
So what was your life like a little bit before that? What were you doing before all of that?
I was a ballet dancer.
Okay.
I was studying at the Houston Ballet.
Great. I didn't know that.
Yes, I did. I went to performing arts high school in Cincinnati, and I left when I was actually 16.
Oh, wow.
I got my own apartment in Houston, Texas. That was probably a mistake, but anyway.
Well, hey. Yeah.
But yeah, so...
Following dreams always. Though.
Yes, exactly, yeah. They had good bead stores in Houston too. I'll tell you that. I remember that too. But yeah, so I moved there, and then from there I moved to San Francisco briefly. Okay. With my friend who had been raised in Thailand, the one who took me over. Okay. And her mother had lived there for 20-something years. And so we stayed with her mom, and her mom knew all these guys. That's how I met my husband, through her mom, kind of. Yeah. So. Yeah, I felt like I had it in, you know what I mean? I didn't just feel like a tourist. I felt like you could go to people's apartments and, kind of get to know a little more intimately than just traveling through.
Yeah. Well, that's great. That's great. So for you as an artist, as a maker, who or what are your biggest inspirations?
Oh, that's a hard one. I have to say, I got to give a shout out to the women who I have seen. Sally, you remember Sally Rosler from...
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Yeah. She is retired now, but she was always a big inspiration to me.
We
like,
love Sally.
I would just see her, you know, she just always looked, she was so well put together, and her booth was amazing.
Yes, she did an amazing showing.
She did, I remember my husband, back in the day when he was still around, just standing in front of her booth, and he was just looking and looking, and I was just like, I just see the wheels turning in his head, and because it was beautiful. She just did such a good job.
They are great people.
So she was always a big inspiration to me, and a lot of other women who have just been through a lot, and especially as I'm, getting a little later on in my years. Like Pema from Pema Arts. I don't know if you know her, but she's, been through a lot of transitions in her life, but just still, like, brings it, just shows
Continues
up
on.
looking like $1 million and got her booth full of jewelry, and it's gorgeous, and just people who, we've all obviously in our lives go through a lot of difficulty and like
many changes, many adaptations.
People come and go.
Right, exactly.
Just put it that way. And that can be hard, It can be really, I think for me it was, it took me a really long time, and it's like, it's not something you ever really fully get over, is losing someone who was that, close.
Yeah.
And when you work with someone, it's different, I always thought like, if my husband was a lawyer and he got up every morning and he went to work, and it would have been so different, but when you're that intimate, and it's like, and it's not just,
are these brass?
It's something that I'm so passionate. I didn't go to school for this, I do this because I gravitate toward it, because I love it. Yes. and I think he did too, and he was good at it. And so it's such an intense bond.
Yes.
That it is very hard to get over those, and I think you pay the price a little bit too. I mean, people don't know what to make of it, even to this day. I mean, it's been years,
Right.
But even to this day, I think I kind of have to. I have to say a lot. This is my business.
Right.
I've always been the president. I set up the corporation.
You started it just as much as anybody else.
Yeah. But I do feel like I have to. All right, so now I'm getting off on a little tangent here about the man-woman thing, but I think that people gave him a lot of credit,
right.
and maybe me not so much.
Yeah.
So like I said, seeing women like Sally and Pema who have always commanded, it's everybody knows from the start it's their business.
Oh yeah.
And, who's running the show.
Yeah, there's no question at that point.
Right. So I think that's one of the reasons I mentioned them. It's just that it's been an issue for me.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm sure it is an issue for many women in the business. Even though when people think of jewelry, they may tend to think of women. But when you actually have the behind the scenes and the supplies of that jewelry, and there's not a lot of women doing the same thing that you're doing.
Yeah, the design and the manufacturing. It's just mostly importing.
There are many women artists who are making individual beads or making glass work or ceramic work, but the actual importing and designing and manufacturing, that's not.
Right, yeah. You don't typically associate it with a woman.
Right, and that's a shame. I mean, it's a shame, but it's good to see that there are people out there, and you're mentioning a lot of others that do that, and that's what they are, and that's all that they do.
Yeah.
So that's great. So when you're not doing designing and social media and everything else for the company, what do you like to do?
Well, I have a very simple life.
Okay.
For the first time in my life, I'm living alone.
Okay.
I just bought a house, cute little house, and I live there with my very big dog. A very big, weird dog. He's scared of everything. So I have to take him on lots of walks.
Okay.
So I walk the dog. Walking the dog is a big part of my life. And I teach, because I used to be a ballet dancer. as I started to age, I realized like I really need a physical outlet as well.
Right.
Now that things are more online, I used to have a retail store, so I had a lot of interaction with people, and it was just very, vibrant and.
It's hard to pull away from that and not have that outlet anymore.
Yeah,
I don't know what I do without going to the store almost every day.
Yeah, I am not like the type of person who likes to sit for long periods of time.
Right.
I'm like, I pack an order and I like reward myself by going upstairs and getting a snack or whatever. Right. I got to go do, it's like always
keep moving.
So I discovered online this type of movement called gyrotonic and gyrokinesis.
Okay.
And the minute I saw it, it was a friend of mine who I used to live with in Houston. She was a ballet dancer. And I said, what are you doing? That is so cool. I want to do it and I want to teach it. And she's like, what? She's like, why don't you just go try it first? I didn't know that it wasn't that common. But I'm lucky enough that in Cincinnati, Ohio, I have my teacher, Julie Cordier. She's an amazing, she owns the studio. And I called and left a message. She must have thought I was a crazy person. And I was like, hi, I would like to take gyro and I would like to be a teacher.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
She was like, well, yeah, why don't you just come in and try it first? See what you think. But I did. The minute I started doing it, oh my gosh, I love it so much. So great. I actually teach that, not a lot, maybe 5 hours a week. And I just got a gig at an old folks' home. Okay. Because it's very good for elderly people. Yes. You can do it seated.
I've never heard of it. So
we'll have to do a little gyro episode. It's amazing. So it just really makes me centered. Okay. It's a great workout, but like I said, it's appropriate.
When you're running a business, that's handy.
It is. Yeah. So just a few days a week, and so that's what I do.
Great.
It's pretty simple.
So you're obviously here at Beadfest. Do you have any other shows coming up that you'd like to mention? Where can we find you?
I'm doing the Cincinnati Intergalactic Bead Show. Okay. And that is at the end of October. And I am doing the Atlanta Intergalactic Bead Show beginning of November. I think it's the 3rd and 4th. Okay. And the only other one I'm doing is the Bead Society, Bead Bonanza. Okay. In Southfield, Michigan. It's a cute little show, but it's a great, enthusiastic bead society there. Yeah. I'm trying to do mostly online.
A lot of people are heading that way. I've heard that a lot.
But you really can't, only do that. No. You do have to go out and see the world and see what people are doing.
The shows are a great way to meet new people, to see people you wouldn't see normally. Yeah. And people like that face-to-face and that connection.
Yeah. I mean, it's and to be inspired, to just see to feel the energy,
Right.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, great. Other than that, I always like to ask, do you have any words of advice or wisdom for anyone listening who's thinking that they may want to pursue their dream or they may want to pursue something in the jewelry field?
Just do it. Just put one foot. There's some quote online that said, whatever you just make sure you're headed in that direction. If you want to do it, just do it. Don't be shy. Don't let yourself feel, like you can't or that somebody's better than you. It's not a competition. It's what you can bring. And that's the beauty, I think, when you look around the shows, is how unique every business. And here we all are, and we've just created these unique businesses. And it's such a great, it's not a McDonald's. It's not it's not run of the mill. Right. And that's one of the wonderful things I think.
And that's not what you see online all the time. Sometimes you see a lot of cookie cutter things online, and that's why the shows are a really great resource. Yeah. Because you will meet the people, you'll see how different the people are and how different the beads can be.
Yeah. 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 Yep.
Great. Well, I just wanted to mention again, you can purchase anything from Saki Silver at sakisilver.com. And we just wanted to thank Liz for joining us today. So thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.